Okay, let me know how it sounds because, well, I need to know. If it sounds too loud, let me know and I can adjust it for the next time. Just, let me know. Okay. This is part 1 for volume 11. I won't be able to get the second part out until it comes out in July. So be ready for that. Prologue. The door to the Ehrenfest dormitory's meeting room opened, and the Archducal family left one by one, having finished eating dinner and sharing their intelligence. Their retainers awaited them in the hallway outside, having taken their meals in the dining hall. It was time for the attendants who had served the Archducal family during the meeting and the knights who had guarded them to eat. Ferdinand, you're going back to the villa now, right? The fight is over. Be sure to rest tonight instead of overdoing it again. Yeah, definitely, considering how much mana he probably used to have to, wake up Rosemine, because we don't know how much that took. The same goes for you. Rest well tonight so you can memorize your lines and practice your whirling tomorrow. Yeah, she still has to do that. As Rosemine and Ferdinand said their farewells, so did Charlotte and Florencia. The Archducal couple will be returning to the castle. I shall entrust the dormitory's arrangements to you, Charlotte. Contact us if you run into any trouble. We have ordered the scholars to immediately relay any messages sent from the dormitory. Certainly, Mother, you may count on me. Sister, let us return to our rooms together. Charlotte and Rosemine returned to the staircase in the entrance hall, the latter swathed in silver cloth and being carried by Angelica. Yeah, that. Wonder how long that's gonna last. Their retainers followed after them. Ferdinand went in the same direction, intending to pass to the entrance hall to the central building, but his attendant, Lostfam, intervened. Lord Ferdinand, could you spend the night here instead? I shall, take care of the cleanup tomorrow, so that I might return home. Lostfam had been summoned to the dormitory early in the morning and told to prepare a room for Ferdinand, but when the man in question had arrived, he had ordered the preparations be undone and that Lostfam return home so that he planned to stay in the villa where he was not eating. Or when he was not eating. Yeah, dude. Let the poor guy handle this for you, please. He's been your attendant for years. He's been your name sworn for years. Just let him do this for you. And why would you even want to go back to that villa in the first place? From what I gather, you were miserable there. So why would you want to go back there? One could understand the attendant wanting to serve his lord again. The two had been apart for well over a year, but he would never actually have acted on that desire. That he was questioning his orders implied an external influence which made Ferdinand furrow his brow. Surely spending one night here would not pose any issues, Justice interjected with a shrug. If one wishes to trap the subordinates of the Carfins, huh? One must first give them an opening, huh? Carfins were the animal used in Arensbach's crest, and being their subordinates meant being loyal to the duchy's previous archducal family. Ferdinand understood the importance of testing them. He had already set up a touchstone to see how they would react, but Justice's intervention was far too purposeful. What exactly was he planning? Good point. I'm assuming they're talking about testing the loyalty of the people of Arensbach that were loyal to the previous archducal family, I guess to make sure that everything will be safe for Rosemine when she comes back. Not to mention, it seems he has something he wishes to keep secret from his lady, Justice said, pointing. Hartman had followed behind Rosemine's retinue and was looking in their direction. Hartman, what are you planning? Ferdinand, if you want to converse in secret, then go to your room, Sylvester said with a grin. I asked Lostfam to prepare it for you a reason. He gave Ferdinand a slap on the shoulder, then said, Don't waste our goodwill, all right? Ferdinand swallowed the urge to say that an archduke should remain more on guard and draw firmer lines in the sand. I mean, this is your brother, dude. What do you expect? He actually does care about you, unlike his sister, Georgine, who doesn't care about anybody but herself. He was no longer an Ehrenfest noble. He had already left to perform administrative work in another duchy. On the other hand, he wished that Sylvester would acknowledge these facts and treat him as he should any outsider. But on the other, he was pleased, touched even, that his older brother still trusted him enough to treat him as a compatriot. I cannot talk. But yeah, it is good that Sylvester still treats him well, even despite this information. Despite the fact that he was in Georgine and Detlinde's line of sight for over a year. Very well, Ferdinand replied at length, but only to hear whatever Hartman has to say. He glared at all those present, then climbed the dormitory stair instead of returning to the villa. The second-floor hallway was lined with rooms for men. There were shared rooms for lay nobles and men nobles at the north end, and chambers for the archducal family and their retainers at the south. The southeast room was the largest and meant for the archduke, while the one beside it was meant for the heir apparent. Wonder who the heir apparent is now. Because, yeah, it's not Wilfrid anymore. Ever since his time at the Royal Academy, Ferdinand had stayed in the southwest room opposite the archduke's. That same room had been prepared for him again. He went inside and found it comfortably warm. The fireplace was lit and firewood crackled within. Losfon would never have done something so wasteful when Ferdinand did not intend to stay the night. Justice was evidently determined that his lord not return to the villa. I mean, like I said, considering how much he more than likely hated that place growing up, the fact that his people actually possibly picked up on that. They possibly picked up on that. He might know more about that place than he's letting on. Would be insane. They wouldn't know, obviously, the full details, but they might figure that maybe he knows more about this place than he's letting on. Ferdinand glared at his impudent retainers, who merely shrugged and smiled in response. Good grief. I mean, are they still names sworn to you, or do they still not have that? Because, I mean, I would assume they're still not. Blossom, if you would prepare some tea, Justice said. Eckert and I shall wait in the retainer room. Or shall eat in the retainer room. Certainly. Hartman gazed curiously around the room while the eager attendant happily started serving his lord. He could not enter Rosemine's chambers on the 3rd floor, so he probably spent a lot of time wondering what it was like inside. Oh god, yes. I am so glad that what was her name? Maya Miyu, whatever her name was. I'm sorry, I forgot your name. The author. I'm so glad you did not make Hartman a love interest, because that would be freaking stalkerish. This is already taking it to a stalker level. And this is just him being loyal to her. Imagine what if you'd taken it to a romantic, like, ugh, creepy. Sit, Ferdinand said. Hartman did as instructed, and Losman poured them both some tea. Ferdinand took a sip and immediately felt the tension drain from his shoulders. Now then, he continued, what do you wish to discuss? Lady Rosemine's attendants. It was said that they spend only a bell to get ready, but could their transfer be delayed until tomorrow? Thanks to the materials Riarda and the others have prepared, Lady Rosemine will not be inconvenienced even if she needs to wait for her attendants to return. Moving at night is dangerous. It will not be easy to move them at this time, but the sooner it is done, the better, Ferdinand replied, tapping his temple. Rosemine's attendants are not trained in combat. Leaving them in Ahrensbach is more dangerous than the alternative. You understand that, surely. According to a report, nobles in Ahrensbach's castle were attempting to take Rosemine's attendants hostage as leverage. What? Of course. They were part of the faction supporting Detlinde, to nobody's surprise. Ferdinand intended to observe them, and those who worked to suppress them before deciding how to treat Ahrensbach's nobles moving forward. But there was a problem. If any harm came to Rosemine's retainers in the process, she would go berserk and make things dramatically more troublesome for everyone. She'd probably nuke the place. She probably would. That was why Ferdinand wanted to extract her retainers from the castle post-haste. Yeah, keep anybody who would be useful to them against Rosemine away from the castle until they can determine it is safe. Hartman shook his head. Lady Letizia and her retainers are keeping them safe in the northern building. Surely it must be safer for them to spend the rest of the night there. Even if guards are assigned to help with their move, the knights who stayed in Ahrensbach's castle can hardly be trusted. Attempting to mobilize them sounds far too risky. Before heading to the Royal Academy to capture Detlinde, Ferdinand had rid his group of her allies and then those reluctant to obey his orders. Such undesirables have been told to stay in Ahrensbach's castle, hence Hartman's concern that the knights stationed there could not be trusted. Hartman had also questioned the prisoners in the Adalgisa villa, which must have contributed to his concern. Cornelius and I will travel to Ahrensbach tomorrow to fetch our things, Hartman continued. We can escort the attendants on our way back. Do as you please, then. Ferdinand saw no reason to drag the matter out any further. He was busy enough preparing for the upcoming meeting with the royal family and the ceremony that would succeed it. Oh boy. He was being considerate only because he did not want Rosemind to become emotional. Her retainers would solve their problems on their own. Care to tell me the true reason you are here? Ferdinand asked. I doubt that was your main concern. Yeah, it was of concern, but I highly doubt it was the main one. It was of equal importance, considering how deeply Lady Rosemind cares about her retainers. Oh, definitely, since some of them especially are her family. Hartman said with a wry smile. He sipped his tea and exhaled. Then he retrieved some fey paper from the folds of his clothes and cast stylo to create a pen. I wish to know more about passing on the Grutushite. I checked the Sovereign Temple's records with that priest, Curtis, but found nothing of relevance. There were records about the Zent's coronation ceremonies, but not a single mention of a divine avatar performing a dedication role to grant a new Zent the Grutushite. As expected, why would you even need to do dedication world for that anyway? That's a dance. Seriously, why would you need to do that for that? That kind of seems unrelated. Only once in Jurgen Smith's long history has the royal family lost the Grutushite, and there is no precedent for a divine avatar granting them one anew. Becoming the Zent had originally required candidates to obtain the Book of Mestinora through their own power, and those who wished to take the throne had competed to see who could fill their book with the most knowledge. A religious ceremony wherein a divine avatar simply bestowed the Grutushite upon someone defeated the whole purpose of the crown. Yeah. In that case, what manner of ceremony are you envisioning? I was told you want Lady Rosemind to whirl, but what will the ceremony entail, and what will it hope to achieve? That's what I want to know. You're asking the good questions, Hartmut. Ferdinand nodded, satisfied that Hartmut was simply embracing the artificial nature of the ceremony. Upon her entrance, Rosemind shall whirl to make the Zent selection circle shine and open the path to the Garden of Beginnings. She will go there, return, and grant the Grutushite to the new Zent as a divine avatar of Mestinora. She will go to the Garden of Beginnings. We'll see how this goes. The ceremony will conclude with the new Zent displaying the Grutushite to those present, mirroring the coronation ceremony in its details. I intend to convey all this precisely following our meeting with the royal family. The precise details of the ceremony could not yet be finalized. They would probably change based on who was chosen to become the new Zent. Ferdinand considered the potential candidates and sighed, worrying that things might not go as he expected. Then he shook his head and reassured himself that they would. Never again would the royal family treat him, Rosemind, or Ehrenfest as their pawns. Ooh, so who is he going to pick, is the question. From what we saw on the cover, it might be, Eglantine. But I don't know. We'll find out. That kind of seems a little too, too simple, too easy. But it doesn't have to be complicated, though. Hartman was busy writing everything down where his eyes suddenly narrowed. It might be confusing from a historical perspective if we call this a coronation ceremony. It is unprecedented and unlikely to be performed again, so perhaps we should instead go with the gifting ceremony or something similar to distinguish it from traditional coronations. Yeah, good idea. Ferdinand nodded. It was an astute observation, exactly what one would expect of someone who had just recently scoured the Sovereign Temple's records. He decided that calling it the transference ceremony would do. The name meant painfully little to him. The objective of this ceremony is to fully activate the selection magic circle and revive the old process of choosing new Zents. Or true Zents, Ferdinand said. We should also clean up the misconception that Detlinde managed to activate the circle. It pulsed and nothing more, meaning she failed. Yet some nobles still seem to consider her a proper Zent candidate. Those of lesser and middle duchies had few opportunities to associate with Detlinde and see her foolishness for themselves. They were also unable to argue against a greater duchy such as Arensbach or the Sovereign Temple. Their misunderstandings would need to be corrected. Yeah. Make it shine properly. Then they will see that Detlinde barely managed to make it go. Furthermore, he continued, I wish to burn into the minds of other nobles Rosemind's divinity and of normality. You will need to create an extreme environment to make them accept this unprecedented case of an underage woman becoming Ob. He had omitted the fact that he was drawing attention to Rosemind's divinity to hide that the Grutushite the new Zent would receive was merely a magic tool. I understand your goals and fervently agree with them, Hartmut said, his eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. I shall arrange a performance that leaves no doubt that Lady Rosemind is a flawless divine avatar. Oh, God. Sergeant Hartmut. Ferdinand gave his temple a few contemplative taps. Hartmut's intensity was a little concerning, but overseeing his management of the conversation, or the ceremony, would take too long. He could only hope for the best. If Rosemine finds it intolerable, she can intervene. She has Hartmut's name for a reason. Yeah. With that settled, Ferdinand gave only a brief word of warning before completely erasing the preparations for the transference ceremony from his mind. Take care not to overdo it. If your lady rejects the ritual, we will all pay the price. Is that all you wish to discuss? Must you be in such a hurry? Fine. Lossom, if you would refresh our tea. Ferdinand would need to stay if they had other things to discuss. He requests more tea as Eckert and Justice came in from the retainer room, having briskly finished their meal. They took the usual post for scholars and guard knights. So, what were you discussing? Justice asked. Nothing important, Ferdinand replied. Hartmut inquired about Rosemine's retainers in the castle and the transference ceremony. You can ask Lossom for the details later if you so wish. Nothing important, Hartmut frowned. I don't agree in the slightest. Of course you don't. Important or not, I doubt they were enough to warrant leaving Rosemine's side and coming here to my room. Say what you came here to say. The casual grin vanished from Hartmut's face. He stared at Ferdinand, the serious glint in his orange eyes, a declaration that he would not be deceived. The sight made Ferdinand smile a little. In the year and a half since his departure for Arensbach, Hartmut had grown considerably. Oh, I liked Hartmut. He's got a sucker vibes, but I mean, the guy is dedicated. Big time. You will never have to worry about him betraying her. In the usual sense. Very well, Hartmut said. I wish to know precisely what impact the goddess's descent had on Lady Rosemine. Did something happen? Ferdinand asked. She has returned to her previous comfort level with her retainers. Lenore also informed me that she asked us to use her high beast rather than travel by foot. Oh! Okay, I don't know why Ferdinand has this kind of reaction. Ferdinand's brow twitched, but he said nothing and signaled for Hartmut to continue. Lady Rosemine proposed it as though it were obvious. Lenore said it was like she had forgotten about her face-stone phobia. Oh, did she forget that? And if so, what else did she forget? He's gonna have to find that out. It is as I expected then. Rosemine's fear had persisted even in the thick of a dangerous battle. It was only natural that her retainers would notice something was wrong. So you are aware of her circumstances. In that case, I must ask that you tell me what happened. Ferdinand nodded. To explain the impact on Rosemine's mind, he thought back to his encounter with Mestinora in the Garden of Beginnings. The goddess of wisdom had descended onto Rosemine, given Ewerman a portion of her heavenly power, quote-unquote, and they decided several matters pertaining to the selection of the next Zent. My work here is done, so I shall take my leave, she said. Call out to Brian if you want her to return. Took you long enough. Oh, so are we getting more details on this information? Because we know that he had to dye her with his mana in order to make her remember him, because he forgot her. She forgot him, I'm sorry. He had to dye her with his mana to make her remember him, essentially. So, how did that go? Ferdinand took great care not to speak the words that came to mind. Mestinora had seemed disinterested in returning to the realm of the gods, that he had feared Rosemine would remain trapped there forever. Good. He was relieved to hear that they could summon her back, but only for a moment when she gazed upon Ferdinand. The corners of the goddess's lips curved into an amused grin. Sensing the malice in Mestinora's eyes, Ferdinand tensed up. He was aware of just how much he had done to cross her. Oh. If the myths passed down in Jürgen Schmidt were true, then Mestinora owed everything to Ewerman. He saved her mother and her subordinates from the clutches of her father, Abiglabe. Oh yeah, because Mestinora is the daughter of Abiglabe and Geduld. How could she feel anything but disdain towards someone like Ferdinand, who improperly barged into the Garden of Beginnings, received the Book of Mestinora, and then refused to dye the country's foundation? Jürgen Schmidt's collapse from a lack of mana would cause Ewerman to disappear with it. I'm assuming all the gods would disappear too with that? Right? But even as time ran out, Ferdinand refused to dispatch Rosemine and continuously obstructed Gervasio. I would advise that Terza call out to mine, Messinora said. Quinta's voice might not reach her anymore. Ferdinand could endure the goddess's light crushing, but he could not stand the thought that her malice was being unjustly taken out on Rosemine. As much as Messinora claimed that Rosemine had asked for her help to soothe Ewerman's wrath, Ferdinand found it deeply suspicious Rosemine had expelled her mana to avoid it saturating her body. That was it. She had not prayed, nor had she cast a spell or drawn a magic circle. Messinora had descended of her own free will. One needed only to see how she gazed upon Ewerman to realize her feelings for him. Oh, so she had feelings for Ewerman. Okay, interesting. I suspect she was desperate to descend upon the mortal realm, and Rosemine served as a convenient excuse. That said, it was also easy to imagine Rosemine taking Messinora's bait and giving up her body without a second thought. Yep. Fool, do not make promises without thinking them through. Yep. Yep, that's exactly what she did. Ferdinand balled his hands into fists, considering what Messinora had meant when she had said that his voice might not reach Rosemine. He recalled the price others had paid for calling upon the gods, and inhaled sharply. What have you done to her? Messinora, who was still sitting on Ewerman's shoulder, looked down at him quizzically. She had the same face as Rosemine, but the way she acted made her seem like someone else entirely. I played with her mind to make her body easier to control, severing her connection to memories more important to her than her love of books. Wait, what? So that could mean severing her memory of not only Ferdinand, but everyone else she cares about. If it's only Ferdinand, then that means that Ferdinand is more important to her than her love of books, which is a lot. That is saying something considering how much she loves books, how much she did to get books, to make books, to read books, to be around books. If Ferdinand is more important to her than that, but the others aren't, like her family, Benno, Lutz, the others, if they're not as important, if she still has her memory of them, then they aren't as important to her as her love of books. If she had to choose between books and them, she'd probably go for the books. At least according to what Messinora's saying, if she's actually correct. But apparently she would choose Ferdinand if it meant it over books, apparently. And that's saying quite a lot. She was so overjoyed to be in my library that I might not have needed to, but Messinora saw Ferdinand grimace and chuckled. She did ask a goddess for help. Something of this nature cannot come without sacrifice. Well, this could have gone worse. Had the goddess tampered with anyone else, they might have forgotten everything. Rosemine, however, had an almost unbelievable obsession with books. There were few things she cared about more than reading. Yeah. Ferdinand suspected she would return with her memory essentially untouched. For the most part. Messinora concluded the voice of someone she has forgotten is unlikely to reach her in my library. Is that to say she acted deliberately to sever Rosemine's memory of me? Messinora must have truly loathed Ferdinand. At least, Rosemine prayed to it on a regular basis, and Gervasia was dedicated to becoming the Zent. Even so, Ferdinand resented that Rosemine was being wrapped up in the goddess's petty revenge. Is there a way to repair memories that have been severed? He asked. If someone she has forgotten channels mana into her, her memories of them will return. Not that I think she would allow it. How would she react to someone else, someone she cannot even remember, forcing his mana into her? You believe in the importance of permission, do you not? Yeah, that's essentially the same thing as saying that you're forcing yourself on her. Yeah. But this is Ferdinand we're talking about. He's already done that he already had to do that anyway in the past. So this is just going to be, considering the fact that Ewerman thought that Rosemine was Ferdinand, considering how much mana was in here already. So, yeah, this might not be too much. Ferdinand tapped his temple. The goddess was snidely alluding to his protest when she had moved to grant Ewerman her heavenly power. Do you really think mine would trust a stranger? Messinora sneered. What if she declines to remember you? Will you force your mana into her, or will you attempt to convey the severed memories while pleading with her to accept it? Surely you would not be so brutish as to channel your mana into her without permission. Is this the worst she can do? The most her malice can muster. Yeah, considering she could have easily smited you without a second thought, yeah, she's going easy on you. In truth, such threats were barely worth considering. Ferdinand had already used a synchronization potion and some liquid mana to dye Rosemine without explaining anything to her to restore her memories. He would not hesitate to channel mana into her without permission, of course. If she called him brutish for it, so be it. He did not care. His only focus was gathering intelligence. Is there a way to restore someone's memories without channeling mana into them? Ferdinand asked. Goodness, do you think I would tell you? Huh. So there it is. Oh, so there is. Oh, okay. There is. Yeah, because if there wasn't, she would have said, nope, there isn't. But since she said, oh, why would I tell you that? Because there is. So if she's forgotten, like Benno and the others who don't have mana, there might be a way to help if she ends up forgetting them too. Okay. Otherwise, Messenor would have been quick to thrust her victory in his face. Ferdinand tried to recall any methods for countering the curses and tricks of the divine, and the stern expression this produced seemed to satisfy the goddess. Quinta, would you rather she remember you or has forgotten you? She asked with a venomous smile before finally returning to the world of the gods. Rosemine's body slowly came down from Ewerman's shoulder. Rosemine, Ferdinand exclaimed. He rushed over to embrace her, then grimaced. She had then completely died. Oh, yeah. Yeah, completely died of Messenora's, mana, essentially. Whereas still, she was radiating divine mana, human mana containing divine power. That seemed to reject the touch of all others. Messenor was gone, but it felt like Rosemine had yet to return. Rosemine, can you hear me? He called, his frustration growing. There was no response. If the goddess had told the truth, then Ferdinand could be sure that Rosemine no longer remembered him. He took her hand and tried to channel mana into her, but it was pushed back, of course. Because, that's what the body naturally does. Whether she's in there or not, that's what it does. Not long ago, a synchronization potion and some liquid mana had been enough to dye her completely. Wow, really? Wait, how do you make liquid mana? That's what I want to know. How do you do that? Now the goddess's descent had made his mana more like a foreign element that needed to be guarded against. Despicable. Re-dyeing her mana would have been trivial with the aid of another synchronization potion, but Ferdinand had not thought to bring one. But yeah, he didn't. Of course he's not going to bring one. Why would they need to bring that? It's not used in battle. Yeah, they serve no purpose in battle. Angry at both Messenor for creating the predicament and Rosemine for carelessly surrendering her body to a goddess, he gripped his staff and increased the force behind his mana. Rosemine, come back already! Ferdinand noticed the faint sensation of their mana connecting. It steadily expanded as he poured more mana. Yeah, he had to have used a lot. If she was dyed completely by the goddess's mana, to where his mana wasn't even in there anymore. But even then, Rosemine did not respond. Will this connection really bring her back her memories? Could it be that Messenor wants to keep her in the world of the gods? Harrowing thoughts swirled through his mind. He tried to remember some other way to make Rosemine's mana easier to dye, at which point he heard Ewerman respond to Gervasio. Messenor wanted all three of you to compete. The will of a goddess is best followed, so let us wait and see whether Quinta gets through to her. The gods did not lie. They focused only on the promises made between them and mankind. History had proven that time and time again, even the malicious goddess would uphold her end of the bargain. In which case, I can only keep calling out to Rosemine while channeling my mana into her. I'm assuming she did this to make you drain her mana to get her back, because I'm assuming this is going to take a lot of his mana, and I don't know how much he's got, but surely this would get rid of a lot of his mana. So this will make it far harder for him to do what he has to do to prove himself as a Zent candidate, which makes Gervasio's claim even stronger because he's not going to have as much competition. Ferdinand was stealing his resolve when he suddenly remembered something crucial. Rosemine was in the goddess's library, unable to think about anything more important than reading. Do not tell me she is simply too focused on her books. That she is too distracted to hear my calls whether she remembers me or not. That's gotta be it. Ferdinand cannot tell whether her silence was due to severed memories or because she was just too busy reading. And in the goddess's library, there was no way to grab her by the shoulders or close her book. It seemed more and more likely that Rosemine would not be able to return at all. At once, Ferdinand put even more force into his mana, completely overpowering the rebound. Rosemine! Rosemine! What's going on? She suddenly exclaimed, her goofy tone making it exceptionally clear that she had simply been too focused on reading to hear anyone, so she might not have forgotten him at all. Really? Rosemine, your obsession with books is getting very problematic here right now. Ferdinand was more angry than relieved. So you finally heard me. Get back here, now. If you linger, all that you care about will disappear. Oh, goddess, return my body to me. Ferdinand sounds angry. Oh, she remembers him, of course. So she might not have even forgotten him in the first place. She was just too busy reading. Because I think I remember correctly, in the last book, Mestanora even said that she couldn't even reach her. So, I mean, she had to have been too busy reading. Rosemine's startled cry echoed through his head, but he did not hear. He did not hear Mestanora's reply. Instead, everything went quiet. Ferdinand continued to channel mana into Rosemine, unable to relax until she woke up. Or, to be more precise, until she believed in a way that distinguished her, or behaved in a way that distinguished her as Rosemine, not Mestanora. The more I think about it, the more it irritates me. Still, Ferdinand would gain nothing from getting annoyed at Mestanora for descending upon the mortal world and doing as she pleased, or at Rosemine for failing to understand the enormity of their situation. Unfortunate though it was, they were already involved with the gods. Ferdinand put his memories of the current catastrophe aside and met Hartman's gaze. The scholar was still patiently waiting an answer. I shall not say too much about the goddess, Ferdinand said. There is extremely little that can be shared with someone incapable of visiting the Garden of Beginnings. Saying too much would reveal sensitive context to the warring between Zens, and it was bothersome just imagining how Hartman would react to Mestanora using Rosemine's body as she pleased. I must know whether Lady Rosemine's memory is intact, Hartman stressed. We cannot risk burdening Our Lady through ignorance. I wish to hear as much as you can tell me. Well, I highly doubt that he can even know that himself, because he doesn't even know who she remembers at this point. Back when Rosemine's Faystone phobia first developed, not even she had noticed it. Hartman and Laisletta had sensed that something was amiss, but lacked the time to investigate, which had resulted in their failure to react properly when their lady attempted to escape the post-battle celebration. They had chastised her, and she had seemed uncharacteristically tense around her retainers ever since. She would momentarily freeze when they called or take a cautious step back when they approached. Minor details that did not impact their daily life, but still stood out to Hartman and Laisletta. They deeply regretted not noticing her confusion in full or acting upon it. I understand how you feel, Ferdinand replied. In truth, not even I have a complete grasp on the situation. Despite having followed the goddess's instructions and channeled mana into Rosemine, Ferdinand could not tell whether he had restored all her memories about him. Yeah, you're going to have to ask her that. He had participated in the battle that had brought about her fear of Faystones, but now that fear was gone. Would it remain that way until she received the mana of the person most responsible? What if that person was deceased? How would manaless commoners bring back Rosemine's memories of them? That is a good question. Messanora's reaction had implied there were other means of restoring a person's severed thoughts, but what were they? Would completely redying Rosemine's mana and returning it to its original form cause her memories to return as well? That's a good question. That might actually be it. Is there anything you could tell me, Hartman pressed? Even just words of warning about how to interact with her going forward. Ferdinand tapped his temple and thought. He would need to discuss the matter whether Rosemine found out about it or not. If nothing else, it seemed reasonable to reveal as much as he could otherwise have shared with her. As much as he would have otherwise shared with her. The following information cannot leave Rosemine's retainers, Ferdinand said. He explained that Mestanora had taken Rosemine's memories as payment for her services, and that every memory with a greater hold on the rampaging bookworm than her love of reading had abruptly been severed. The goddess refused to elaborate, but if Rosemine has forgotten memories related to her Faystone phobia, we can assume that bad thoughts were taken as well as good. I do not imagine there are many things that she would prioritize over reading. At the very least, she does not seem to have forgotten her retainers or the Archducal family. She ranks me lower than books, then? Oh, Hartmut! He's gonna feel bad. Hartmut muttered, dejected. Then he looked up at the start. Did she not lose her memories of you either? Oh. You gonna answer him, or are you gonna dodge the question? You should already know the answer. There was no dissonance during tea or dinner. They don't know that you had to die mana, though. You gonna bring that up? Are you gonna bring up... He's gonna have to bring up how to fix it if she ends up forgetting anybody. So, Hartman's gonna find out either way. Indeed, everyone who had attended the gatherings could attest to that fact. As long as Ferdinand did not admit to having channeled mana into Rosemine without her permission, nobody would ever need to know. Oh, how would they react to this? Oh, but if they know the context behind it, they probably wouldn't be angry, but still, that'd be awkward. This is but a theory of mine, but I suspect that most of the memories Rosemine cared about more than reading books had to do with making them, Ferdinand said. I am more curious to see what she remembers of the lower city commoners and those of the temple workshop. As for her other missing memories, who knows? We cannot help begin to fathom what might have vanished from her subconscious when not even she remembers it anymore. True. And they don't even know everything she even had, so she could have forgotten things from Japan that we wouldn't even know about. Hartman nodded in agreement. He was one of only 2 of Rosemine's retainers who knew their lady had a family in the lower city. You seem calm, Lord Ferdinand. Do you know of a way to restore her memories? I intend to try a variety of approaches based on history and myths, but I can make no guarantees. As it stands, I am also short on time. It will need to wait until the transference ceremony is complete. Can we trust her to participate in the ceremony and the discussion with the royal family while suffering from memory loss? She still remembers the Archducal family and her closest retainers. Do you really think she would have forgotten the royal family or nobles of other duchies? Yeah, that has to be something that she cherishes more than books, so yeah, she won't forget them. On second thought, I anticipate no problems whatsoever. Everyone present agreed that Rosamund was unlikely to value the royal family or Dunkelfelger's archducal couple over reading. Yeah, agreed. Rosamund now has goddess-dyed mana, Ferdinand said. It should be remarkably easy to show the royal family we are above them and to have the nobles of other duchies accept the news and the unprecedented case of an underage woman becoming Ob. I intend to exploit this opportunity for as much as it's worth. Still, this is quite the predicament. On the one hand, I wish to immediately restore all that Lady Rosamund has lost. But on the other, I want to thrust her overflowing divinity in the face of every noble in Jurgenschmidt. It's a conundrum here. Do that first, and then restore her memories. Ferdinand did not care. He'd probably move on to the next topic. I forbid any of you from telling Rosamund she has lost her memories. I cannot imagine what might happen if she loses control of her emotions while infused with divine mana. Yeah, that wouldn't go well. As it stood, simply being in Rosamund's presence was enough to compel most people to kneel in awe. If her emotions rampaged and the divine power went rampant, nobody in the world would be able to stop her. Ferdinand might be able to, but he probably would have to have the help of everybody who has a lot of mana. I expect silver cloth to be essential during our discussion with royalty. We will not cover her to begin with, but the royals are very likely to offend her, no? Lord Ferdinand, do you consider it wise for her to crush the royal family with her divine mana at least once? No, but I take it you do. Hartman smiled evasively, but Ferdinand already knew the scholar had behaved disrespectfully around the royals at the academy. Lord Ferdinand, Hartman continued, if there is a risk of her goddess-dyed mana going berserk, it might be best to make arrangements for her name sworn to enter in the case of an emergency. Her name sworn? For what purpose? Ferdinand asked. He glanced at Justice, but the retainer's look of curiosity showed that not even he knew what Hartman meant. You observe that even archnobles, such as Brunhilde and Riarda, could not help but tremble when touching Lady Rosamund, correct? Well, although we name-sworn feel the same sense of awe, we experience no such physical symptoms, perhaps because we are already enveloped in her mana. Lorenz and Matthias confirmed they were also unaffected. Okay, something new, okay. The smaller one's capacity, the best one could resist goddess-dyed mana. Thus, while archnobles could not touch Rosamund without starting to tremble, lay nobles could not get near her at all. Hartman proudly declared that he and other name-sworn retainers were completely immune to this. Okay. I see. Very well, then. I shall ask Sylvester to arrange a nearby waiting room to be used during the meeting. Good idea. I thank you. Hartman then departed, leaving the room in silence broken only by the sounds of Losfang cleaning away dishes and the crackling of the fire. Ferdinand tapped a finger against his armrest. He always tapped when he was lost in thought. Justice waited patiently for the drumming to stop. Well, Lord Ferdinand, what shall we do? Ferdinand looked over at his 3 retainers, Justice, who was awaiting an answer, Eckert, who was standing on as a guard, and Losfam, who was still clearing away dishes. They had all given their names to him, and were thus the most influenced by his decisions. Some decisions will change drastically depending on what the obstruction of touch demands. He eventually says, Speak not out of loyalty. Are you ready for whatever might come? We do as our Lord wills. Ferdinand reached into his pocket and touched his name stone, the one Rosamund had returned to him. Oh yeah, is it still dyed with his mana though? Oh! If he's still dyed with her mana, he's immune to it too. That's why he was able to help her with this. Okay. That makes sense. He should have realized. I'm surprised he didn't realize this. Cause unless his name is not returned, unless her mana is still not developing him, in which case, okay. Pale-faced royal family. An ordnance shot into and circled the room before landing on Riarda's arm. This is Lenore. We have arrived at the Adulteress Villa and will soon return to you. The knights here have agreed to help carry our luggage to the dormitory. Thanks to Ferdinand, the villa's teleportation circle was active again, allowing transportation between Ahrensbach and the Royal Academy. Lenore, Cornelius, Hartman, and Clarissa had just come back from retrieving their belongings. They had picked up Laisletta and Gracia at the same time. She wants us to welcome the knights when they arrive, Riarda said, which should be soon if they use the teleportation door. I must go instruct the servants who will receive their luggage. Brunhilde, oddly, our milady cleaned up and escorted to the front entrance. Riarda then departed, leaving me with Brunhilde and Audley. They made sure my hair and dress were in order, while Bertilde brought over some silver cloth, which was placed gently over my head. Daniel, this is Judith. We are escorting Lady Rosemine in the entrance hall. Be ready to guard her. Another ordinance that meant Daniel will be waiting by the stairs on the second floor. Angelica picked me up and carried me, so she hadn't add so many times already. Are you all going to switch places with Lenore and the others to pick up your luggage? I asked. Angelica sighed. I insisted on wearing the same clothes. Not that I wouldn't wash them, but Lorenz told me no. It's so sad. Lord Eckert said we should be on guard at all times following the war. Her tone was melancholic, but no ordinary noblewoman would use the recent conflict as an excuse to stop changing her clothes. Lorenz was right on that, to shut her down. I doubt Eckert meant you should wear the same clothes or keep your armor on at all times. Is he not going to retrieve his own belongings? Now that you mention it, he did return to Ahrensbach. We arrived at the entrance hall. The door was wide open, and my retainers were entering with those carrying their luggage. I asked Angelica to set me down, then addressed the Ahrensbach Knights. Everyone, I thank you for your help. Consider it greatly appreciated. I was told you plan to take turns going home. Please rest when you can, and keep a close eye on Lady Letizia. Because of the Lanzanavian's attacks, the nobles still in Ahrensbach's castle were largely Detlinda's allies rather than Letizia's. Detlinda's group had since been imprisoned, but it wouldn't be strange if those on her side used this opportunity to start something. Yeah. Be on guard. Worry not, Lady Rosemine. Lady Letizia is doing fine, Laisletta assured me. She was overjoyed to hear that the fighting at the Royal Academy was over and that you and Lord Ferdinand were safe. Isn't that right, Gracia? It is, Gracia replied with a nod. She treated us very well. Upon returning to my chambers, Laisletta and Gracia once again rejoiced that the battle was over and everyone was safe, then reacted with shock when my silver cloth was removed. The dormitory had returned to normalcy. In the meantime, I practiced dedication whirling in my room. This one sure is tough. I was used to my new body when it came to moving normally, but whirling was something else entirely. Maybe because of my longer legs or extra weight, my intuition for maintaining my center of gravity had completely evaporated. I wasn't sure if I'd ever be able to whirl smoothly enough to earn a passing remark from Ferdinand. Oh yeah, it's gonna be tough. I don't even know when this new coronation ceremony is being held. Am I gonna be ready in time? Just keep doing it, girl, that's all I can say. Despite my worries, I continued to whirl. I was also memorizing the script for our meeting with the royal family in preparation for when the day finally arrived. Lady Rosemine, we just received new clothes from the Gilberta Company, Brunhilde announced. How wonderful that they came in time. It was the morning of our meeting. The clothes were made with this Ahrensbach cloth given to me by Ferdinand and dyed using methods that were popular in Ehrenfest. They came with a matching hairpin exactly as ordered. Oh, here we go. We're going to have maybe some confirmation or not. The thin cloth was such a splendid idea, Brunhilde said. It lets just enough light through, and the hairpin Thule made looks so gorgeous as always. Or as gorgeous as always. Oh no! Shit! Indeed, it really is such a wonderful combination, I replied with a nod and smile, but on the inside I was panicking. Thule, is that my hairpin crosswind? Ah, shit! She forgot Thule! No! Shit. She forgot her family! Oh no! If she forgot Thule, there's no way she's gonna remember her mom and dad and brother. Oh no. If she forgot Thule, she's forgotten Lutz and the others too. Shit. So they were more important to her than books. That's what I thought. It had to have been it. Oh no. Who else has she forgotten? Wait. Really? She remembers the Archducal family, so they're not more important to her than books? So how are they going to help her with the others? Oh, no. This is not good. Are they going to have to get her to remember her memories of them or something? Oh, dear, this is not good. The name had completely slipped my mind. I must have met them in person when placing my order, but I drew a blank every time I tried to remember their face. Why can't I remember? They had to be a hairpin craftswoman working for the Gilberta Company. I could picture Karina and her seamstresses without any trouble at all, so why not this other person she must have brought with her? She remembers Karina, but not Thule. Okay, this is going to be weird. What else have I forgotten? Are the memories important or do they not matter? As I racked my brain, I suddenly remembered Ferdinand asking me about my memories when I woke up in the Garden of Beginnings. He had said something about Mestinora warping my mind while possessing me. Could this be the cost of giving one's body to a god? Yes! So she knows. She has a feeling that this is why. A chill ran down my spine. My stomach hurt like it was being squeezed. My memories had vanished in such an unnatural way. I didn't know what I'd forgotten or how to remember it. The very thought was terrifying. You're going to have to get Mestinora back down here and tell her, give me my memories back! That's what you need to do. Give me my memories back! Calm down. You don't need to worry. There's bound to be a way to get your memories back. I hope. I hope so. Because this is going to be very awkward if not. My thoughts had been a little scrambled at first, but I'd quickly remembered the events that had preceded my encounter with the goddess. Maybe it was optimistic of me to assume, but my missing memories were bound to be knocking around somewhere. I was sure I'd remember them soon enough. I hope so. For now, though, I still didn't know anything about this Thule person. Oh, no. Ferdinand's going to have to remind her, hey, that's your sister. Oh, it's going to be worse for Rosemine to realize she forgot her own sister. Lord Ferdinand has arrived at the tea party room, Riarda informed me. He wishes to speak with you before the meeting. Ferdinand was the one person with whom I could discuss matters relating to the goddess. I went to approach the door, but Angelica used Silvercloth to snatch me up once again, of course. Angelica, be more careful with Lady Rosemine, Clarissa said. You are treating her as you would a piece of luggage. Be honored that you have the opportunity to carry a divine avatar and make each of your movements exude graceful delicacy. Yeah, right. Right, I will next time. It certainly was true that Angelica kept getting rougher with me, but I was much too worried about my memory to care. She could treat me however she pleased, as long as she got me to my destination quickly. Attendants were going in and out of the tea party room in preparation for our lunch meeting with the royal family. Meanwhile, the Archducal couple was reviewing everything to make sure there weren't any issues. There was a space in the corner of the room for the retainers and guests to take turns resting. And when we arrived, I saw Ferdinand there with the sound blocker already activated. I took the seat opposite him, then waited as our attendants made us some tea and took their leave. Rosemine, did you memorize the sheets I gave you? Ferdinand asked. Yes, but there is something more important I wish to discuss. Some of my memories are missing. For example, Ferdinand, you're getting your answer here. I reached up and touched my hair. I can't remember the face of the craftsman who maced this hairpin. I expected a strong response, but Ferdinand just nodded. So I would imagine. You cannot even remember the dyer who colored those clothes, can you? You made them your Renaissance. I suspect your memories of them have been severed. Dyer? Renaissance? Once again, I desperately racked my brain. Renaissance stood out to me. It was a title given to those who joined the Archducal family's personnel to spread the new dyeing method which had been used to color the skirt I was wearing. I gazed down and touched the cloth. I'd asked for the method to be used in the first place, so I must have had a dyer in my employ, but I couldn't remember their face or name. Ah! Oh, no. Fuck. Nothing is coming to me, I muttered. Ferdinand, what do you know about all this? You said the memories were severed, not gone. Did the goddess tell you something? I must know. I rose to my feet, but Ferdinand gestured for me to sit down again. Deliberately eyeing my retainers all the while. As much as I wanted to grab him by the shoulders and shake whatever secrets he was keeping out of him, yeah, that's not happening. Even if you were to shake him like a rag doll, it ain't happening. He'd just pick you up and set you down. We were in full view of an entire room of people. Even if they could not hear us, they would not want to know what was gotten into such a rise out of me. The incident of the Garden of the Beginnings and the truth about Messinora's descent would drastically impact the selection of the next Zent. For that reason, I had been told not to say anything, at least until our upcoming meeting with the royals was over. Messinora wanted to keep you distracted during her descent, so she cut your ties to anything stronger than your love of books, Ferdinand explained. She made it very clear that the memories were severed, not erased. I could not glean any more than that, but I doubt there was much you could prioritize over the library of a goddess. I even have a good idea which people you might have forgotten, though I cannot speak for anything that was festering in your subconscious. So, I cared more about a dyer and a hairpin cross person than reading? That doesn't make any sense. Not when I still remember the Archducal family and my retainers. You know about the people I've forgotten, don't you? Can't you tell me what they're like? Oh, it's gonna be awkward. Is he gonna tell her or not? Though I thought a little insight might help me to remember, Ferdinand shook his head and refused to elaborate. I guess he's going to wait at least until the selection process is done and everything, and then help you with that. I didn't feel anything about the dyer or the hairpin cross person, but by any memories of them to have been severed in the first place, they must have been very important to me. I needed to get those memories back. How can I restore the connection, I asked. Do you know? Given our lack of time and resources, there is little we can do right now. You will need to wait until the next scent has been chosen. Most of the people precious to you are in Ehrenfest, and commoners at that. You will not encounter them at the Royal Academy. I will support you later. Just wait for now. Later? Do you promise? Ferdinand nodded, and the tension drained out of my body. Oh, thank God. As much as he kept secrets and tried to manipulate me to do as he wanted, he never outright lied to me. His promise meant he would eventually help me, even if our hands were tied for now. Yes, thank God. You got her to calm down. May I proceed with the pre-meeting, Ferdinand asked. There is not much time before lunch. Yes. Dunkelfelger's Archducal couple has arrived, and attended by the door announced just as fourth bell rang. Sylvester and Florencia welcomed them as the hosts for today's meeting. Hold on. Did we... Oh, come on. Really? Take your seat, Ferdinand told me, and remember not to do anything funny. Ferdinand and I were attending not as hosts, but as guests. I was invited as the current owner of Ahrensbach's Foundation and the divine avatar of a goddess, here to grant the Gründlichkeit, while Ferdinand was invited as the fiancé of the Duchy's next job by royal decree. How did you not How did she not realize this? She just said it. The next by royal decree. So if she is decreed to be the next then technically Ferdinand is her fiancé. So this is going to be very weird when she finds out this. How is she going to react to this? Because he's already been making those preparations behind the scenes, in the shadows. But I'm the only one being made to sit here. This is so uncomfortable. Curse you, Ferdinand. During a gathering such as this one, it was customary for all guests to greet the higher-ranking attendees. These people of note were given chairs some distance away from the main table to avoid obstructing other guests in attendance. Putting me here was a sly trick to emphasize that as a divine avatar, I was superior to the royal family. I almost couldn't believe how many people were surrounding me. My knights were standing in a row behind my chair, while Ferdinand and Hartmann were standing to my immediate left and right respectfully. Ferdinand, should you not sit as well, I asked. You're going to look strange if you just keep standing there. It makes you seem like one of my retainers. Only those of equal status may sit beside you. If we waive that rule for my sake, it would distract from your importance as a divine avatar and defeat the whole point. One of your retainers can take my place at your side if you would prefer, but I suspect Feline or Roderick would immediately bend if one of the royals complained about your status. Please stay where you are. Your support heartens me. As I thought. It was then that the Dunkelfelger's Archducal couple concluded their greetings. Ab Ehrenfest, we are grateful that you decided to host this meeting. I also sincerely appreciate the role you were playing in letting my duchy experience true dinner. They went to sit down, noticed that I was waited to be greeted as well, and then strode over with wide eyes. I almost stood up on instinct. I was so used to their status as exceeding my own, but a subtle nod from Ferdinand reminded me to stay still. Dunkelfelger's Archducal couple soon knelt before me. Oh, God. She's not Mestinor, she's just, what would be the word for this? A vessel? She's not really Mestinora, she just looks like Mestinora. Has anybody not picked up on that? She looks just like Mestinora. O Mestinora, goddess of wisdom, let our duchy be blessed. Ferdinand had told those in our immediate circle to treat me as they normally would, so only Hartmann and Clarissa had knelt upon seeing me. Their displays of reverence, which I had taken to be excessive, must have actually been the norm for nobles in the presence of divine Mana. The Abb and his wife were showing respect not to me, but to the goddess-dyed Mana now inhabiting my vessel. This is why Ferdinand had ordered me not to get carried away. I would need to face the consequences when the divine Mana faded. I wasn't really sure what it meant to get carried away in this scenario, But I now had an Archduke kneeling before me whose status had always exceeded my own. It was as uncomfortable as when Benno and the others had knelt to me for the very first time. Dunkelfelder, I said, I apologize, but Miss Nora has returned to the distant heights. She might have died Romana, but I am still only Rosemine and cannot give a Gaius' blessing. Oh, that is a shame. Yeah, too sorry. Though my explanation sounded a little awkward, the influence of my divine mana remained. Dunkelfelder's archducal couple refused to stand. I never thought the day would come where I would fight alongside a true divine avatar, Dunkelfelder said. The knights of our duchy regret that you were not there to witness our heroic victory against the Sovereign Order. Yeah, I want to know what happened with that. The Archduke continued even as the attendants began pouring tea, explaining everything he and his troops had accomplished. Many of Dunkelfelder's knights were still overjoyed to have participated in such an enormous dinner match. The same couldn't be said for the knights of Ironsbach, who were on edge about overseeing and interrogating their Lanzanoff prisoners. I am told my husband might be put on the throne depending on the royal family's words and actions during this meeting, Segonde mused. Aloud, she glanced cautiously at the door. I wonder how they will respond to the current situation. I am actually concerned about that too. I was deeply concerned about the future of the country's royals. My eyes also wandered to the door which the attendants were opening to welcome a new wave of guests. Now, if you'll excuse us, Segonde said, then took her husband to their seats just as the royal family entered. There was an emaciated-looking charcoal with his first wife, Walfried. Oh, God. How are we going to do this? Because are we going to chastise the king here, considering what he said? He might have been under the influence of Trug. We don't even know what happened anymore, but... Rolfrida, Sigiswald and Adolphine, Anastasius and Eglantine, and the young Hildebrand with his mother, Magdalena. It was springtime, but the third prince was keeping his hands in a firm muff. Oh! Did he not finish absorbing his divine will, so he can't touch anybody? That's what it's got to be. Under normal circumstances for a gathering like this one, rulers would choose to bring only their first wives. Shoot. Fucking glasses are getting on my nerves. There was a smudge on them. It was surprising to see Magdalena here, but she had received an invitation both as a knight who had led the charge to smite Rabla, and as the third prince's mother. She would need to take responsibility for her son's actions. Oh, they look so pale and sick as heck. Still, could anyone blame them? They must have heard the gist of what we intended to discuss from Anastasius and Magdalena. Aaronfest, thank you for hosting us today, Charlqual said in a slightly raspy voice. Then he knelt in front of me alongside the rest of the royal family. Here we go again with this. O Messinora, the goddess of wisdom, we beseech you for your blessing. I wish to reward you all for your goodwill and persistent hard work, I said. It was not lost on me that Prince Sigiswald gave me a symbol of authority. Oh god, this again. And that thing is broken as heck. It'd probably go dust by now. In my time of need, that's probably, like I said, broken. I turned to Hartman and gave him the same signal we had agreed upon during our pre-meeting. Yeah, we didn't even get to see what the pre-meeting was. He reacted at once and passed me a leather pouch. Sigiswald must have realized what was inside because his eyes darted between Sylvester and me, betraying offense. No, that is actually... my apologies. You went out of your way to prepare it for me, but the chain was damaged as a result of the non-stop fighting. I thought it best to return it right away. I was being sincere. We really didn't have much time. I'd spent the previous night inspecting the chain, making sure it was ready to be returned, only to accidentally bombard it with a divine... Whoopsie! Oopsie! Sorry! You can just blame it on that. Divine mana leaking out of me. The chain had immediately turned to dust, and even the base stone part had ended up brittle. Oh. I need to return it now while it still at least somewhat resembles its original shape, before it crumbles away entirely. Sensing the urgency, I took the necklace from its small pouch. Rosemine, Ferdinand interjected, do not grab it with your bare hands or... Oops. His warning came too late! The face stone portion had clung to its form, but any touch reduced it to powder. The rails inhaled sharply. Oops. Sorry. I apologize. The rails inhaled sharply and stared in disbelief. I really hadn't meant to break it. Divine mana was to blame, and it wasn't even something I could control. My apologies once again, I said. I assume gold dust made from goddess-dyed mana is exceptionally valuable as a brewing material, considering its vast mana capacity and many elements, Hopefully that makes up for the loss. Sorry. I returned the dust in my hand to the pouch, which I then held out to Sigiswald. He stared at it in silence for a few seconds before finally smiling and accepting it. I am glad our symbol of authority was of use to you, he said. No, don't you even dare. Don't you even dare break those rainbow face stones, Ferdinand. Don't you dare. Ferdinand smirked and touched my hairpin. Gold dust made from divine mana, How I envy you, Prince Sigiswald. You're begging for ingredients now? Of all times? Get a grip! Your mad scientist attitude isn't welcome here. Look how awkward you made the royals. Hey, swat his hand away. Swat his hand away. Trying to suppress my internal outrage, I put on divine smile befitting a goddess. Goodness, Ferdinand, if you need gold dust, I am more than willing to give you some, but you must provide your own materials and face stone. I am grateful for the divine avatar of Messanora's consideration, Ferdinand replied. Despite his teasing voice and venomous smile, he seemed exceptionally pleased. Obtaining the research ingredients was just that important to him. Yeah, he was even willing to break your freaking rainbow face stone hairpin. You better not, dude. Well, I want to keep him in a good mood, for my sake and the royal family's. Yeah. Let us eat lunch before our meeting, I said, not wanting our guests to have to keep kneeling before me. We all took our seats, and the attendants started serving us. We had asked that everyone bring as few retainers as they could, but even then there was enough people gathered that our room felt quite cramped, or more cramped than when we'd invited Archduke candidates of every duchy to a tea party. Hildebrand took his hands out of his fur muff to reveal the staff-stealing bracelets. Oh, never mind. Never mind. That's why, yeah. Oh, yeah, because I don't even think did he absorb? I don't even know anymore. Is it because he hasn't finished absorbing it yet? Or is it because he did something bad? I'm assuming it's the latter. Revealed staff-stealing bracelets on his wrists. Everyone outside the royal family watched as they were removed. He should not have a staff yet, Magdalena explained, having read the room. As he acquired it through illicit means, we must forbid its use. Yeah. Sorry. Dude, you really should have questioned Roblet more instead of just assuming, essentially blindly listening to the guy. I would have at least asked if I was him, I would have at least asked my mother, can I even do this? Before even accepting what Roblet was telling him. That's what he should have done, but... The third prince cast his eyes down, desperately holding back I feel so bad for him. Back tears in the face of his mother's stern remarks. One could tell at a glance that he had already been lectured to the ends of the earth about his crime. It wasn't his fault. Robla had manipulated him, but not even children were shown mercy in this world. Yeah, Wilfrid definitely is a freaking example of that. Seeing him now reminded me of when Wilfrid was punished for entering the Ivory Tower, which filled me with bitterness. Maybe I can help somehow like I did back then? No, just don't say anything. This is not your fight. As I gazed upon Hildebrand, I noticed that Eglantine was eyeing me closely. She looked as pretty as ever, but her smile gave me no clues as to what she wanted. I gave her a vague smile in return. Today's menu shall comprise Ehrenfest dishes made with Ehrensbach ingredients, Sylvester announced. It was our way of demonstrating that our two duchies were still on good terms, despite Georgine's war. Or, if anything else, that Ehrenfest was still on good terms with me. There hadn't been time to devise a new menu, or have the court chefs practice new recipes, so we had new dishes for which to wow our guests. Still, it was a rare and welcome opportunity for them to enjoy seafood. These dishes really stand out from the Ehrenfest food we ate during the Archduke conference, said Alfreda, the Zent's first wife. Indeed, Florencia replied with a smile. As these are Ehrensbach ingredients, we rarely have the chance to eat them ourselves. We have Lady Letizia to thank for providing them. She turned to me, indicating that it was our chance to hammer home our good relationship with Letizia. Quite, I said. The dock workers of Ehrensbach sent so much fish to the castle as thanks for defending the port from the Lanzanavians and granting even the commoner's healing. In that case, we shall also thank Lady Hannelore for today's meal. Her fighting was excellent, Ferdinand added. The moment she proposed using wolf and nails to capitalize on her enemies like Amana, I knew she was a true Archduke candidate at Dunkelfelger. I am grateful that she and her duchy responded to Rosamund's call for aid. We spent a while discussing the purge of Lanzanov and the subsequent battles, but our focus soon turned to the investigation into the Sovereign Knights Order and the current status of the Royal Academy. Our probe into those Rabwa incited to is progressing quite smoothly, Sigiswald informed us. As it turned out, there were many Lanzanavians among the Sovereign Knights in the auditorium. A scholar working on the investigation tells us the influence of Trug on them has begun to fade. Not everything is clear, but their memories can be read, making it fairly simple to identify the criminals and their co-conspirators. Ferdinand glanced at me. That would be because Roseblance washed and wiped away everything brought from Lanzanov. Goodness, I muttered, the goddess of water's divine might truly is impressive. My only aim had been to stop the use of any more instant death poison. Yeah, you kind of overdid it, yeah. I certainly hadn't expected to ease the sway of our enemy's Trug. Anastasius wore a grimace as he thought back to the battle. The whirlpool had thrown him all the way up into the audience seating, but still, such was the glorious power of the goddess who washed away Abiglaive and brought about spring. Most of the sovereign nobles had also been put through a wash-in to ensure that nobody else was under the influence of Trug. Those who were clear found themselves submerged in water only briefly, but the rest had to wait until their minds were slowly cleansed. I was underwater so long I thought my retainers might end up drowning me before my inevitable execution, Troracle said, a distant look in his eyes. Rabla has used Trug on him over such an extensive period, determined to make Gervasio the next scent, that scrubbing its influence had taken an obscenely long time. Dang, how long were you under? And how long had he been having Trug on him? As for the current state of the Royal Academy, Eglantine said, Ob Klassenberg rushed over in response to both the nobles' the sudden activation of his Guthrie Gate and Dunkelfelger's request for aid, as did Ob's Hoschlitz and Glissenmeyer, Adolphine added. Though it isn't yet time for the Archduke Conference, more and more Obs are gathering at the Academy. The higher-ranking duchies Dunkelfelger had contacted knew only that Lanzanovians had invaded the sovereignty through Arensbach. They desperately tried to gather more information at the Academy, but weren't able to obtain any meaningful answers. An announcement had gone out that anyone who stepped foot outside their dormitories would be cut down without warning. Many duchies have contacted us wanting to know more about the situation, I said. We have yet to respond to any of them. The results of our meeting could be compiled into a report, which would then be distributed to all the duchies in Jurgensmith. Only then did it strike me what an insane predicament I was in. And, yep, knew it. Knew that was coming. Anyway, I'll see you guys in the next one.